Do you think I should give you guys a name? The three of you that keep returning? Why would you do that? How about idiots? That's stupid. No. And don't mind the outfit. I just watched The Matrix for the first time yesterday, and I think this is going to be my personality for the rest of the week. Follow me on Letterboxd, maybe? Netflix's Avatar. The most confusing show to ever come out this year. And it's not confusing as in the storyline is so complicated that it's hard to understand. It's confusing as in no one knows what to think of it. I mean, some people know how they feel about it, but I don't want to talk about them. The first time I watched the show, I was really into it for like the first 4 episodes. I felt in the moment that I was going to rate it an 8 out of 10. But the cursed episode came on. Galandir's favorite episode, which is insane, by the way. The Spirited Away. Not The Spirited Away. What? Spirited Away. It's honestly not a bad episode at all. It's alright. What it is a bad adaptation. And it tainted my experience watching the show. While going through the last 4 episodes of the show, I was still hung up on the fact that I didn't enjoy Spirited Away, that it like tainted my whole experience with the last episodes. And my rating in that moment changed from an 8 out of 10 to a 5 out of 10. Yes, I know that he's my expert. Get two people reconnect. I only see him as a friend. Biggest lie I ever said. But after sitting on it a few days later and thinking about the show in retrospect, I give it a new rating, which is the same rating I've stuck with until now, and it's a 7 out of 10. The show was good. Which makes it strange that I titled this video An Inevitable Failure. The show is not a failure. It's getting 2 more seasons and it has positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. But the show has flaws. A lot of them. And I want to share what flaws were inevitable when this show got picked up in the first place. So, part 1. Now, if you're not in the know, get in it. Netflix usually picks up shows for like 6 to 10 episodes at most, with a few exceptions. And that short season model works for most shows. I mean, my 2 favorite shows after Avatar are like between 8 to 10 episodes. And removing The Last of Us from that duo, the remaining show's first season is shorter than Netflix's Avatar. And that worked great for it. A single season of Arcane with like 9 episodes resulted in this guy, Shni, making like over 10 hours of content just dissecting the show. And there's still more to unpack. So what makes Netflix's Avatar feel so rushed? And also putting into consideration that Netflix's Avatar and Nickelodeon's Avatar are almost the exact same length in runtime. I put that into one reason, the number of episodes. Nickelodeon's Avatar's first season was 20 minutes to 20 episodes. And each episode had its arc. It had its own character to explore. And it had its own central theme. Let's take a look at 3 episodes from the original show. The Waterbending Scroll, The Deserter, and Jet. All of them have their story arcs, a focus on one character, and a central moral question. That's a hard combination of words to say. All of them have the story arcs, focus on one character, and have a central moral question. And all of this is a result of the show having multiple episodes to work with. Now with Netflix's 8-episode model, we don't really get time to breathe with our characters. We don't really have time to breathe with our characters, and enough time to explore other facets of their personalities, because we seem to not have the time to, even though we clearly do. And the problem is the number of episodes the show has. I'm pretty sure no one other than Netflix would have managed to have like 10 to 15 episodes with a range of 28 to 40 minutes of actual show screen time, which is the exact same runtime of the show that they have already. Avatar is a show that made me do what? Love life. Avatar is a show that many people love because of its characters. And weekly releases along with 10 to 15 episodes makes us feel as the audience that we spend a lot of time with your characters, even though we really don't. And that's another detriment the number of episodes have on the show. We only get 8 episodes with them. And that may not be enough of a reason to not connect to a character, as we do connect with characters in movies. And that usually takes like an hour and a half at least. But adapting a show that literally and actually felt like you were in a tight-knit friendship with these characters, you also need to capture that again in the audience's minds for your new show. Or else they won't give a shit about the characters in your new show because they feel like they already have a better relationship with the original characters. Think about that. Part 2. This is going to be a shorter part because it's linked with the first part. Nickelodeon's Avatar, the first season mostly, was highly episodic. It was a bold move trying to fit it into a serialized Netflix format. So give props or props are due, I guess. But making the first season of Avatar episodic was a genius move. I actually don't know if it was planned or not, so I don't know how much of a genius move it was. But it worked out. The show going from place to place each episode made the world feel bigger. And I don't know if I was the only person who felt this, but the Netflix adaptation was really claustrophobic. And that could seriously be the fact that I already experienced an expanded version of the world in a cartoon, but I digress. The entire show was spent at Caldera, the Southern Air Temple, Wolf Cove, Kyoshi Island, Omashu, Heiba's Village, a different fake village, Crescent Island, Poai Fortress, and Agnikela. I'm just now noticing that this is more than I thought, actually. While the Nickelodeon show spent its first season at Wolf Cove, the Southern Air Temple, Kyoshi Island, Omashu, Horus Village, Heiba's Village, Crescent Island, Trading Village, Jest Forest, The Great Divide, as bad as the episode was, Fishing Village, Makapu Village, the Abbey from the Bato episode, the Fire Festival, the Northern Air Temple, and finally Agnikela. And going through so many places with the gang made us feel more connected to them because we literally went on a journey with them. And then finally arriving at the north is really cathartic because they literally spent the whole show together. They went through a lot together, which bleeds into the next qualm I have with the Netflix show. Netflix's gang doesn't feel like close friends. Not as much as the original, I guess. The original show having problems each episode and then doing that 20 more times made the gang feel more like a family because we saw them experience a lot with each other, which baffled me when the Netflix writers decided to split them up for an episode and a half. Like, these people don't feel like close friends. Not as much as they should, I guess. And you separate them for an entire episode and a half. And not to mention that they spend the entire episode of Amashu completely apart also. And then you want them to coin Team Avatar when we haven't seen them being a team as much as we wanted to. It's like Bolin saying the Team Avatar in episode 10 of Korra. Homie, you haven't been much of a team before this. Going back to the original show, when Sokka first coined the term Team Avatar, Toph had spent like 2 weeks at most with them. But it felt natural because they went through the Blind Bandit, the Chase, Bitterwork, the Library, the Desert, the Serpent's Pass, and finally the Drill when he coined it together. And the audience felt like she spent more time than she has with them. Shut up, my ass. This is longer than part 1. This Netflix show was advertised to be a more mature take on Avatar, with quotes from the showrunners saying it could appeal to Game of Thrones fans. On the opposite side, Nickelodeon's Avatar was made for, well, Nickelodeon fans, which were dumb 7-year-olds. And most of this point comes from my personal opinion, so you can tell me in the comments if you agree with me or not. Like, comment, and subscribe while you're down there, by the way. The creators of the original show had to dance around a lot of mature topics that they wanted to talk about, and the perfect example of this is Jet's death. In a normal Netflix show, Long Feng would just burst his organs, the gang would surround him on the floor, and he would like say his final words and die on screen. Yeah, it would have been an emotional moment, but guess what would have been cooler? Have Long Feng hit him and then have him say that he'll be fine. Set up earlier in the episode that one of the group is a walking lie detector, and then have said lie detector figure out his lying and make her reveal it to the person she feels most comfortable with in the group. And boom, you have the coolest death scene I think I have ever seen. And Netflix, don't you dare kill Jet on screen and then have Sokka's "it was unclear" joke at the end. I will literally kill someone. And one more thing, the main thing actually that makes this show weird to watch, is that being made for mature audiences gives the writers more freedom to explore those mature topics. And that to me, when done to a certain degree, feels more like telling and not like giving the audience time to theorize and come to their own conclusions. I mean, Aang saying you look like you've been hurt enough to Zuko made me roll my eyes so far back that I actually saw my fucking brain. Like, don't include that so early, man. I mean, Aang hasn't had any context clues as to what could have happened to Zuko. For all he knows, Zuko could have been hurt in a fight that he stupidly pushed based on his experiences with him. That line felt like the writers coming through and expressing their opinions through Aang, and that really broke my immersion. And here's my advice for season 2. Just because you have the means to explore something head on doesn't mean you always should. Why do you think the Avatar fanbase has lived on for so long? We've been discussing and breaking down the aspects of the show that weren't confirmed by the creators but were clearly intended. That's fun for fans to do, to pick the show apart and overanalyze. If you tell us something, you're doing the thinking for us, and no one enjoys that. Part 4. Now, with the many years that Avatar has been out for, it has had so many expanded lore and extra content surrounding its world, with the comics, Korra, and the novels. So when I first heard about the Netflix show, I was excited for many reasons. And one of those reasons was that we can have an Avatar The Last Airbender written in foresight of what happens in the future and what happened in the past of the Avatar world. The original show was taped together as they went along, the first season mostly. As we see inconsistencies throughout the first season of the show, especially. Weirdly surrounding Kyoshi, actually. So a well thought out version of Avatar was super exciting. But guess what? I figured that's a double-edged sword because you do get setups to many things that happen in the future and references to things that happened in the past. But with that, you lose many aspects of what made the first season of Avatar so special. And the main victim of this, I think, is the spirit world. In the episode Spirited Away, the gang finds Heibei's burned down forest. Aang traverses to the spirit world and takes Katara and Sokka along with them. And over there, we get bombarded with so much. We get Heibei, but only for a second, Wan Shi-Tong, the Fog of Lost Souls, Yua's spirit form, Ko, Gyatso's spirit, the Mother of Faces, and I'm like, hold on. Did we need this many characters in this one episode? The original show kept the spirit world so much of a mystery you wouldn't believe. Also, the fucking thingy fell. It fell. I don't know why it fell. I'm just gonna put it down here. It's fine. Fuck it. And it's an Avatar theme poster. I drew it myself. Can you see it? I drew it myself, and it's not sticking on. It's the 4 elements, and it has the fucking thingy. I drew this myself. Please be proud of me. The animated counterpart to this episode, the spirit world, we don't get to see the spirit world at all, actually. The first time we ever see the spirit world was when Aang talked to Roku, and we're still not even sure what plane of fucking existence that talk took place in. So I'm safely gonna say we only saw the spirit world for the first time in the Siege of the North Part 2, when Aang talked to Ko. And that goes back to the saying that you don't have to explore everything that you fully have the freedom to. I felt in this episode the same way I felt about the 2010 movie. Like a bunch of references to something I love, and I was expected to accept it blindly. Wan Chi Tong was not needed at all in this episode. Ko was not needed at all in this episode. Please focus on Heibai. That's what this theme of preservation was about in the first place. Like, why is Ko the one stealing the people? Heibai is relegated to, oh, I remember that, it's from the show, and then he's gone. I have a few ideas on how I wish this episode could have been written, so if you want to see that, if you want to see me think I know more than professional writers, comment down below. Let me know if I should write this fucking video. I want to rewrite this episode. With all that being said, I still think the Katara and Sokka flashback and the Aang and Gyatso talk were some of the best parts in the show, so great job there, I guess. Part 6. No, not part 6, part 5. I was going to include a section where I suggest how to make a better season 2, but this video's gone on long enough and I'm tired. So I'm going to make a video soon on how I think book 2 should be adapted while keeping in mind the constraints that Netflix has. Now, because book 2 of the original show was more serialized than book 1, I believe it's going to be easier to adapt, and that leaves me excited. Yes, with as many problems as I have with the first season, I like the most of it and I still want the show finished. And it will get inevitably better in time. I mean, the original show did that, so why can't this version do the same? And also, speaking of season 2's adaptability, the characters spend the second half of the season in one location, so that's going to be easier to do world building wise. I want you to know that even though I expected these problems as soon as the show was announced, or as soon as I found out about it, because believe it or not, I only watched Avatar when I was 17 years old, which was 3 years ago. God, I'm getting old. But even though I expected these problems, it doesn't excuse the flaws the show had. This may come from me thinking I know better than a Hollywood professional, but I think these problems could have been easily solvable. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on your notifications, all that YouTube shit. Oh, and if you have any suggestions on how I could improve my content, tell me in the comments below. I would gladly take the advice. If it's good. Bye.
Time to pack your bags and just leave. Had to tie my sleeve. Had a long heart up on my sleeve. Let my hand breathe. I didn't